Right on the set there, dude. So, we're here for Carnival of Randomness, and back from a successful gig in Trinidad and Tobago, banging that steel drum is Greg.
Yay! Yeah, man. I am
and then, when he's not selling popcorn and peanuts or Coke. Kinded bottles.
Kinded bottles. It was the paper cups.
And this is the podcast, I'm going to say, I feel like Billy Pilgrim being unstuck in time, going forward, back into the future, because there's so much to talk about with our guest, and I'm so pleased that he's here. Welcome, Don Mancuso. Hi, Don.
Hi, Don.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Glad to be here.
You might not say that in 45 minutes.
I don't know. I've been through some good
Something
ones.
I've noticed, you're playing out a lot still. You're playing at Iron Smoke next week, and you still dig playing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, live playing is what I enjoy doing.
And you said before, just before we were on, it's for the fun now, too.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I'm trying to focus more on getting back into writing and recording, but still want to get out with my buddies and all the
you've got quite the catalog of stuff now. I mean,
I do.
But you're writing stuff. I see Steve posting all the time. Steve Rosenberg and you were writing stuff together, and
Yep, we worked on a couple tunes over the last couple years. I worked with one song with Greg.
Yep, very good. Yeah, great job. Blame it on rock and roll.
Blame it on rock and roll. He kept telling me about it, and I kept waiting for it to come, and finally they came. Here it is. Let's go.
Yeah. Actually, you know,
fun song.
I really wanted that to be a way more guitar song. I didn't even want
all
horns
the keyboards
and stuff in it.
all that
but
stuff.
maybe I'll have him redo a remix for me sometime.
Yeah, you need the right title, because it's like You Wrecked Me by Tom Petty. And when You Rocked Me, no, it was You Rocked Me. And he wasn't going to release it because, okay, you rocked me. Then Mike Campbell just said, how about You Wreck Me? Ding.
Yeah.
That's how you do it and everything.
Well, the twist of a phrase is a very important thing in songwriting, because if you listen to any of those country lyrics, those guys are masters at the English language.
Oh, yeah.
They can take a phrase and just make it mean 5 different things.
Yep.
No, you go like, if you're like Chuck Berry, you go and you could tell a story in 3 verses.
Yeah. And a good story, something you'd really want to listen to.
So, Don, I'm going to pick your brain. I was going to start to say this as the intro started. And Rob reminded me to shut up because the intro was starting. But
I have to be cruel to be kind.
I was so excited. So, Don, you and I played in this band called Ram.
Yes.
Back right after Black Sheep, I guess.
Yep, it was.
What was it, like 71 or 2 or 3?
No. I was in Black Sheep 73 through 75, 76. So it had to be like 77
or 8. Okay.
Yeah, 77 or 78.
That was a lot of fun.
Oh,
I don't remember too much about it, but I remember we practiced in some barn and it was like a blast, though.
Yeah, that was with Brian Sinclair, the keyboard player I met in California when I went out there, and Pat Patrone.
Yep.
And Doug Preston, who passed away just a couple of years ago.
He did?
Yeah, he was admitted into the hospital. He had a heart thing that they had to replace something in his heart, and the surgery went well, but someone screwed up and pulled a tube when they...
Oh, I guess I didn't know that. His son and him they did my furnace.
Oh, yeah. His son, Jake. Yeah, he's a great kid.
Oh, wow.
He's carrying that. Yeah, I just actually worked for about 2 weeks on trying to get rid of all his studio stuff. A lot of it's at Sound Source, if anybody's interested.
What was Ram like, you guys? What was any song title or anything you remember?
Well, we did Won't Get Fooled Again. We did was it that sweet song, Oxygen?
Oxygen,
yeah.
Love is like oxygen.
But what I always thought was the coolest part of that band, and I've been trying to sell this concept to every other band I get in. Nobody wants to buy it, though. But we bookended a set of originals with covers.
Yeah.
We did a middle set of originals, and then we just bookended it with the first and third set were covers. I thought it was kind of cool. It was like a show band kind of approach.
Well, Paul McCartney must have liked named an album after you guys. But you ever see the one meme that I believe in? It's like a Trojan horse, and it's got cover songs. Then the people come to the Trojan horse, your originals. You give them something they know, then open their minds to listen to your stuff.
Right, and I thought it was a kind of a cool way to do it. But anyway,
it is. It's a smart way. I mean, last night I saw the proof in that. I was with this country kid that I play with, A.J. Hilton, And he's got a couple songs, that he went to Nashville and recorded. They sound amazing,
Right.
They can make anything happen there. But he broke out 2 of them to do, and people were like bouncing off the walls over these. They love the cover stuff, but the highlight was his 2 originals.
Yeah.
I think you get them in the mood. They come in, they want to listen to music. Once that opens up for them, then you do the covers. Then one of the best compliments I've heard from some friends is somebody say, "Who's that a cover of it?" No, that's an original.
I mean, you're always going to get people.
Oh, yeah.
It is good when you get that.
You're always going to get the people that just want to hear the hits. But, I mean, I think now I've noticed people are way more tolerant and way more appreciative of imagination and stuff. They like stuff that's a little off.
Something new. Yeah.
Maybe not Captain Beefheart for all. I love Captain Beefheart. So.
But anyway, I wanted to get there.
But the other one you could always do is like one of my friends. He's like playing out like in Cottage in Mendon or somewhere, and he plays like a Hank Williams III song. They don't know who it is, so they come. I would have told him, "Listen, yeah, I wrote that."
So was it cowpunk or was it country?
It was the country. I don't know actually what song. It wasn't his punk though. It was the country. He actually doesn't like Ass Clown. He doesn't like that as a band or anything. Yeah. But I saw Hank at Water Street. He changes over, like just on like dying and everything.
That's wild.
But as jumping on, how did you get the music bug when you grew up? What got you into this fabulous life?
My parents sent me to this guy Nino. I can't remember his last name. Old Italian guy to learn guitar when I was like probably.
Why would you do wrong? Would you be
7 or 8? No. They wanted me to play the tarantella and do all these songs that they loved. And I learned how to play and how to read and stuff.
Wow.
And then, of course, I got older and I decided I wanted to be a baseball star. And I tried that, failed miserably. I was okay, get out in right field. Don't even look at the ball if it comes in.
That was like me when I played. The first thing was, what am I doing? I'm ready. Go to right.
Yeah.
I know, man. I was definitely a sports impaired.
So I gave that up, and I kind of wallowed for a few years until I got into junior high, and I saw my first band. I think it was Lincoln Zephyr or Mar St. Miller, it was
love those guys. Red, White, and Blues band.
Yeah, it was like in a gym, and I'm looking at this going, I could have done this with a guitar. Oh, no one told me this, So I started teaching myself and learning from friends, because you learn from everybody you play with, and I just from that point on, it was just like, no, music's it. I don't want to really do much else.
And you certainly stuck with it, though. I mean, to this day, this has been, what, now, 40-something years you've been playing?
I mean, some people just say they want to do it, and by the time they're out of high school, a year later, they're, not. Then other people they just catch. I think it's like a calling, though. Once it catches you, you can't. So.
Yeah, and you have to be willing to give, like all of us do with anything you love. It's like there's going to be good times, there's going to be bad times. If you can just love what you're doing, you can.
But you always learn something from them.
There was like the golden age too. I always say, because like when my brother saw Led Zeppelin for $3.50, and I'm just thinking of he saw the Doors. I'm thinking of all these bands now that you just open to see for a couple $. You could get, if you saw a Chuck Berry show, you get an autographed picture for $25, going for 90 cents.
Right.
I know, it's funny.
Now like when I go look for a show online, first thing I go, what's the ticket price? They go, how much does your car cost?
Do you remember a band? This was probably, this is like when I was in high school, so late 60s, typical Blimp. Do you remember those guys?
Yeah, I saw them a couple times.
Those guys we thought they were amazing. I hope they were as good as we thought they were, because
it's like an awesome name. I actually really like that.
Well, they were doing stuff like Led Zeppelin 1 stuff and all this heavy. They were great.
Yeah, definitely. They were like a prog rock blues band. Yeah.
They were like Spanish guys from Puerto Rican brothers or something. There were a couple of brothers or something.
Yeah.
But how did you form your first band then?
Well, we were a bunch of friends that hung out together, and we all had mini bikes, and we would, we all played. And one day we just decided, well, why don't we just, get our gear together, and in between riding mini bikes in the fields in the back over in Greece, New York, we'll start jamming. And we started learning, Hendrix and Cream tunes were big at the time.
Yeah.
A lot of Clapton, 10 years after. We just started jamming on that stuff, and then from there it just kind of blossomed into, went to another band of guys that this woman that worked at Kodak Nights said, you know, we got to get you guys off the streets. I'll tell you what, you bring all your gear here, you can drink here, you're not allowed to drive anywhere, and you can play every night you want. And it was like,
wow.
For free? Okay.
A patron. Wow, that is.
You brought good memories. The scar right here is I crashed from my Bubble Taco at the Central Drive-In. I used to drive around the Central Drive. The guy used to chase us during the day.
Really?
But the thing with the Bubble Taco was it was a foreign, so if a part broke, it was the hardest thing to get a part for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I lived by the canal. We used to dirt bike all over the canal.
Oh, yeah.
All dirt bike. It was awesome.
That is.
That was the best. It was like a mark of like pride where, you know, the owner of the drive-in chased me out during the day.
So now I can introduce you as Rob past Hoodlum.
And you know what sticks in my head? That happened when Led Zeppelin broke up after Bonham died, because I remember seeing the little blurb in the paper about John Bonham dying.
Yeah, a little blurb. It's funny.
That's what it was. All it was. Remember in the paper they would do like in the Times Union, the little blurbs on the side. It would be like, oh, by the way, hot dogs went up. John Bonham died.
It's kind of what they do now.
Yeah.
Really, same thing. Anything important they hide.
Right.
That you'd really want to know or care about.
I was at U of R then, and it's like we were getting ready to buy tickets because they were getting ready to go on tour. They just released In the Outdoor, and we were all psyched to go to New York City and see him play in New York City, and I had friends in tears that day.
Oh, yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah.
I was like a curse. I literally, like, Abby Hoffman died, and Sam Kinison died before Abby was going to come to my school, and Sam Kinison died before I was going to go see him. So for a while I wasn't buying tickets.
My girlfriend's still mad because she won a trip to Vegas to see The Who, and then Entwistle passed. And then the whole thing went south, and then she was so mad because she was I could have seen The Who.
Well, I saw how he passed. We really went the rock and roll way.
Yeah.
If he had to go. But what was like if you could just remember a little like your first gig and the feeling about it, just getting up in front of people and playing.
My first gig,
around
like in a local band.
Well, whatever you want, yeah.
Yeah. I think the best gig I ever did was with my son's band. But the first gig was, I got that same feeling off of that gig, was at the tennis courts. Remember they used to have the tennis court dances outdoors, and I was with that band Maelstrom that was doing the basement thing, and actually there was a band I got discovered out of because we were doing another show at a school outdoors in Greece that was surrounded by houses. It was weird. I can't remember the name of the school, but I had my first Marshall 50 with an 810 cabinet, and of course, what do you do with it the first gig? You see how loud it can get.
Of course.
So I had it up on like 8.
11.
It was like, oh my God, it sounds so nice. And this dude comes walking up to me. He looks half asleep. He goes, hey, you want to audition for a band? I go, sure, what's band? Black Sheep? I'm like, no, really? Because I had just seen them like the week before at a party, and I was like, man, these guys are the real deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing them. I remember Poor Heart played at my high school back when Lou Graham was doing that.
Yeah.
Back on drums.
I was scared, though, to be honest. I mean, I had to...
That's why I do this, because, like, I'm sort of an introvert if I don't know you.
To be in
it's like,
front
you know,
of people,
just being in front of people.
And they're staring at you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter what you play or what you do. They're like this.
And I'm thinking, never use the one, well, imagine they're naked, then somebody like me shows up.
That's when I stopped using that one, actually.
Yeah.
Now I imagine your dog with a whip.
Now it's imagine him with a parka. Okay.
Yeah,
He talks about my dog. My dog came out to him.
Yeah, my dog had a good fair.
What kind of places were there around back then?
Like, did you read my mind? That was the question I wanted to ask.
Yeah, it was the Riverboat Fantasy Swings. What was it? What was a
No,
place
that
ended up being? It's where I got all my gear ripped off on Scottsville Road.
Oh, Westminster.
The Playpen, Westminster.
The VI.
The VI. It was. Yeah, it was about 100 names, but yeah.
There's one Lou mentioned in his biography was the Orange Monkey, which I never...
Oh, yeah.
The Orange Monkey. That must have been just a little before my time.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that was a great place.
Yeah,
no
that's
Coke.
place.
No Coke.
We used to, yeah, no Pepsi, just Coke.
No Pepsi, Coke.
The band pays.
That guy was a trip, man.
Oh, he was.
The only thing I remember, like from Red Creek, though, is I heard stories that for the dressing room, the grease from the kitchen would drip down. Yeah, it would.
Yeah, my wife worked there for like the last few years. It was disgusting. It was pretty bad.
No, that was like a favorite place of mine.
And it was always a place where, remember, they used to have that 60 cycle hum.
Yeah.
These artists would come in there and they wouldn't know. And if they didn't have John Vocal, who I was like an understudy of his when I worked at Brighton Sound to be a tech. He knew the exact spot on the water pipe that you could run a clip and clip onto it and get rid of it. and the bands that would piss him off,
so
he
funny.
wouldn't tell them. If they were egomaniacs and they're giving him a hard time, he'd go, have a good night. And all you hear all night is with the music.
That's actually one of the
I remember we also did an opening for Rick Derringer. Remember that?
Yeah.
Red Creek.
Yep.
Back in the day.
That's right.
That was a fun time. They shoved us in this little freaking 2x4 corner. But
Yeah. But we actually got to play in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Then you hear wait a second, that doesn't sound right. They must have pissed the tech off. That's how it goes. So that's rock and roll, man.
Oh, yeah.
Everything.
So what was your evolution from that point forward? How many years was that, and what?
Oh, God, from there it was 3 to 5 years. Well, I was just in high school, and then I started with Black Sheep. Before I graduated high school, my parents went and begged permission to, well, he wants to do this for a living and go on the road. We don't know why. but we want to let him do it. And,
we thought if he learned guitar as a punishment, he wouldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, I know. I had to sign an agreement with all my guidance counselors because I had my Regents diploma. I was just there taking classes to meet girls and stuff and try to stay out of trouble and not drink or smoke pot all day. So I went on the road, and the agreement was I was supposed to do all my work, when I come in, do the test, send it in, and then I was supposed to show up at my graduation, right?
Yeah.
And everything worked out until the graduation, and all of a sudden, how you get the last-minute gig of a lifetime.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, my God, we got an opportunity to open for the Sons of Champlain.
Oh,
right?
yeah, wow, that was a great band.
They were slotted to be the next Chicago, and that was like our hero band besides Chicago. And it was in the Rose Garden in Buffalo. They 6,000 people, whatever it was.
Wow.
And Lou's like, oh, don't worry, I'll get you back for the ceremony. I'm going to drive my Corvette. I'm like, yeah, okay, well, I'll tell my parents that. And
that would have been great. A Corvette comes whizzing in.
Yeah, well, it did. It whizzed into the Holiday Inn that burned down after the graduation, and my parents are screaming at me going, they called your name and someone else walked up. You're never going to get your diploma.
Wow.
They said you're done.
Yikes.
Wow.
So I had to hire a lawyer and get my high school diploma 2 years after I graduated.
How can they do that?
Because I signed an agreement saying I would.
I wondered because I know when they give you
right.
the diploma, it's actually not in there a lot of times. Like I know when we did.
Yeah, they mail it to you.
But I blame rock and roll on almost like might be skipping class because I had a paranoia like when a show was coming. I wanted to get a ticket and I wanted to make sure, so I would like skip class just to go out to House of Guitars somewhere, go by a record theater to buy tickets to shows.
Let's get there early.
Yeah. Because it was just like one of those things. It was priorities in life. What do you want?
Yeah, they didn't like me after that. Some of the teachers liked me. They thought it was cute because everybody cheered when they called my name and someone else came on.
Yeah, but I like
receiving the award for Don Mancuso is.
But I like the other 500 kids. This guy might be a success.
Playing out a little bit and everything. You're running into them later and stuff, and they
Yeah, I've talked to a lot.
Yeah, but who's laughing now? You know, the guy's working in a garage or something. At least you got to do something you really wanted to do. You know?
And there's other people that excelled further and got further ahead. I mean, you know how it is with everybody.
Yeah. It means if you're content with your life, though. That's the thing. I know people, I always used to say, some people I know, they make a lot more money than me, or they do anything, but they're miserable. Like, you want to be happy. That's a big thing.
Yeah, well, that's key. I mean, people couldn't figure out why, after getting so big and touring the world with Lou, I just don't, pick up and run to Nashville or L.A. or it's like, I tried that. it's a click.
Right. Oh, very
just
much
like
so.
Here.
I lived there too.
I never made it in with the click here. I just have more friends that are really good musicians. So it's like, I don't want it. This isn't a competition to me. I do it because I love it and I want to create. You know?
And it comes out, though, in people, though, because I've seen people play who technically are really good, but they're doing it, you can just see they're up there just for the paycheck. They're, like, technically good. Other people, you can tell they love doing it. They love being up there, and there's a difference.
No, there's got to be a passion, and people do relate to that, I think, when they see you enjoy what you're doing.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
And I saw before the Lips Turn Blue show at House of Guitars, I was hanging out with Roy. He was eating an ice cream. I'm going, drummer's eating an ice cream. It's going to be a good show. When that drummer is mellow and eating an ice cream.
I love Roy.
With his shades.
That's right.
Was it a drumstick?
Oh!
You've learned, my son, on the show. I did notice more. It was the ice cream was white with raisins in it or something.
Really?
Maybe it was
there's an ice cream over there right by I swear.
That's rum.
Yeah. Keyword rum.
Rum.
Yeah, probably.
So, I mean, the bands you play with right now are so diverse. You're in a Zeppelin band. You're in an Eagles band. That's
Billy Joel.
Billy Joel.
I just joined that one.
Beatles.
52nd Street. Beatles. I do a lot of Beatles just by nature of I love their music, so I do it with the acoustic things that I do. And
wow, somebody would be upset about that.
Why?
It's our little joke.
Oh, yeah, Jill and the Beatles. You know about Jill and the Beatles.
Yeah, I do. But, Celtic Fire. I mean, we're actually going to get together and do a memorial show for Sebastian Marino, her ex-husband, who she had all her kids with. And he was a guitar player on the first album. He did all the guitar parts and engineered it and produced it.
Was he the guy that used to work at that place on Humboldt Street? Was that the same Sebastian, or is that a different guy?
That's a different one.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Seb used to own his own his own sound company. Huge. They got huge. And he was a guitar player for Anvil.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And a couple of lot bigger bands, but then he got to a point where he discovered what was going on behind the scenes.
No, there's a band that never said never.
Yeah.
Somehow I missed them when they first came out. I know my friend Rob Mount, he knew the one guy in it, but. And I forget his name now, Rob something, or in the Anvil. But I was into those. I missed them when they first came out. Somehow I was surprised.
Yeah, I saw him at the Water Street with Seb. That was great. Good show. Good
it was Rob Reiner's his name, I think. Maybe like Rob Reiner, like the director and stuff. Maybe I think that might be his name.
An be.
I think possibly, but
so since you're in all these type of specific groups, like, what's your do you have an opinion on all this tribute band type stuff? Like what the big thing is with them now? They're all over the place.
Oh yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah. And they do well. I'm not saying that they're a ripoff.
Oh, this is the year of the Pink Floyd tribute band. 50 years.
I mean, people just want to hear that kind of stuff, or more exact things, or memories, or what do you think?
No, it's definitely when you think about music. I mean, my dad, before he passed, he couldn't speak. But if I started playing a song that he recognized from his youth, he would sing.
Wow.
And know the words, enunciate clearly, and I'd be like,
wow. No, it's true.
And if the music stopped, nothing. He'd be going,
wow.
I would have that because I caregave for my dad with dementia, and it got really bad the last year. Phil Marshall would come in and they would do music therapy.
Yeah.
And my dad would forget who I was. I'd be called Antonio. I'd be, how dementia is.
Oh, yeah.
But I'd be out there, and they'd be playing, and my dad would be singing the lyrics.
Yeah, that amazes me.
It's definitely memory and feelings. You throughout your life, you experience certain things, and there was music to it all. There was a soundtrack to your life. Right. Basically, no one wants to admit it, but it was there. Even if you weren't into music, there was one happening, and when that music hits you, it rejuvenates your feelings from that and makes you feel better.
Yeah, and you'll hear somebody say, "Oh, when I hear this is the soundtrack to my youth, I hear this song."
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I always think it's an amazing thing too. Like a lot of these, like a movie or something, is the director will pick, or whoever's doing this music, they'll pick some obscure song from years back, And all of a sudden, like there's a Kate Bush song, they got big, and then all of a sudden these songs are huge, and all this new generation and all these people that like this movie,
they relearn.
They're going, wow, they rediscover all these things.
Or the younger kids who don't know the band or anything, that's what they do. They pick it up. It's all new to them.
Yeah, because sometimes their parents really aren't around now. Most parents aren't with their children a lot. You know, they go to work. They're double income families that are struggling, and they don't even really see their kids except for the weekends or whenever they can. So they don't have a chance to turn them on to that music like we did. Our parents, gave us here. Frank Sinatra, Nancy Sinatra,
Rex Skelton for me.
Right. I mean, whatever it was, they were turning you on to music.
Sure. I mean, that whole thing. Look at McCartney's. All those guys. They all grew up. Well, any of those '60s bands grew up with World War II era
and
stuff.
20s and 30s stuff, and
that's right.
That's why they swing.
If we ever got like Mick Jagger or somebody on here, I'm waiting for the call back, Mick. I would just love to say the question. Like now, it's amazing. I want to find something. I could find it pretty much anywhere. There might be some stuff. Imagine growing up and you're just hearing this on pirate radio. One person would get an album. Everybody would come around because you couldn't get an album.
Right.
That's how the Stones were formed, because Mick and Keith ran into each other.
Right.
I think Keith said he wanted to mug Rick because he had the latest Muddy Waters album. But they went listen to it. Could you imagine how that would be now? It's like, great, we got the new Who album. Yeah, let's go all listen to it.
Yeah, there's no psyche on anything like that, and now it's not even worth putting out albums anymore. Most people's attention span is like 15 seconds. Click, click, click. Oh yeah, that's great. Click.
Yeah.
I have friends who don't watch movies.
You gotta grab them fast.
Friends who don't watch movies anymore, they can only do like series because they can't have the attention span.
Right.
But then there's also that thing about music that's funny too. I remember when I saw the Who the last time, Day, where Roger Daltrey mentioned Rochester instead. But like hearing feels like from the first time, like cruising all night on Lake Avenue. I'm like, oh, that's about our place.
Yeah, right.
You're standing in Cleveland watching it. That's about us.
Yeah.
I have this one weird thing too with people. I don't want it to happen to you ever, but for people, Greg, it can happen to. That plays in multiple bands. I'd love to see like somebody who plays in multiple bands start playing a song from the wrong band.
Oh, I've done it.
Well, I've done the wrong endings.
Yeah.
Because I'll forget how they ended. I'll go to the other ending. Oops.
And I'm probably wrong about this, but I think the difference between like tribute bands, cover bands, and like if you're playing out and you're doing a cover. If you're doing your own cover, you can do like like whatever song. You can do your own version of it. Now, if they come to see a tribute band, they want to hear it like the band.
Right.
Well, some people do, but I've been noticing in like the Zeppelin thing that we do, we don't try to be Led Zeppelin and sound like the album.
Right.
Neither did they.
You're right. I was going to ask you if you feel pigeonholed trying to learn a song.
No, Jimmy Page never played. I guess to talk about like. For a concert, there were 24 million requests for tickets for that Led Zeppelin reunion.
Yeah.
But he said that was the only time he ever played the Stairway to Heaven solo right.
Oh, to the album, right?
Yeah, that was the only time.
Yeah, I believe it because I mean it's those are moments in time, right?
Right.
When you're recording or you're doing art, and they mean a certain thing. And an hour later, it could be something a little different. 10 years later, it's going to be something that you want to be a lot different, right?
Yeah. I think airplay, you hear it over and over and over, and that's the only way you think it goes.
Yeah.
Well, the exception seems to be the Eagles, just because it's, from everything I've read, like I read Don Felder's book, Don Henley wanted the live shows exactly like the album.
Yeah, he was pretty anal about that, and they never achieved it. I heard a lot of their shows. I was present there, I mean, it was great. But it was them live.
Yeah,
right.
It wasn't sheer perfection. I mean, by any stretch, it was them live, and you could see the interaction and people laughing at each other.
I prefer live stuff myself.
And like you're ever going to get Joe Walsh to do the same thing twice in a row?
Exactly.
In his whole life.
Don Henley's quote about Joe Walsh was, "He's an interesting bunch of guys."
Yeah, right.
That's
best
awesome.
Intro for best
like
intro. He opened for the Doobie Brothers when I saw him at CMAC. He strolls out like some guy like picking up junk on stage. Comes out, "Hi, I'm Joe Walsh." Kicks in the seat to me. I'm like, oh no, I thought it was like a guy walked up on stage.
Yeah, to me, I'm watching these tribute bands like online that are like trying to be perfect to the record,
right?
And going, why? It's already been done. You spent that much time
Right.
trying to achieve what someone did in about 5 minutes. I mean, do a tribute to them, you know. Just respect the music, do it your own way.
I think that's more accurate as to what it should be.
It's interesting to see bands that really strive for it, like classic albums live, right? Because Phil was a singer for them.
He did a couple of them.
He did a couple of them, right? And we didn't see him sing Led Zeppelin. Was it Led Zeppelin 2, right? That he did. We missed him at the Lilac Fest because I think that was the year it snowed. Back from Minneapolis.
I was with one of them.
And we went to see that band do it in Verona, and he wasn't there, so we didn't get to see him do it. But it was a really interesting experience to see them go for the note for note with all the musicians that it took to do it that way.
Right.
And that was an interesting art form. But
it is. But then they have to dress you all in black. They actually offered me the gig to do one. I can't remember which one. They said, yes, you have to be all in black and you can't move.
Yeah, because they want you to just listen to the music and not
see the video production.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think, and you have to use the exact same equipment, and I'm like, well, obviously you would do that.
Yeah.
I'd rather see the song remains. Because it's the spirit of the music.
Right, I'd rather see a band that's just a good band, has great chemistry, together, and
that's most important.
And they love that music enough to be able to reproduce it their own way and make it something new.
Yeah, I think each of the members has to be a devotee of, like, if you're doing Zeppelin, you got to really like Bonham. I mean, the drummers have to really understand what he was doing and then apply it to their own way of playing. But
that's a tough thing.
Yeah.
It is.
That guy was a dynamo. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
He had a unique style that is uncopyable.
Yeah. And I mean, they're a good example because, I mean, there's a lot of recordings out there. Jimmy Page, he's a little sloppy at times. And as soon as there's no rhythm guitar, it all drops out, and it just sounds completely different.
That's right.
And then the bass is picking up a lot of the stuff. He plays pretty busy, to make up for it. So
no, and a lot of it. I mean, people forget that like some of the best music has a lot of space.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually air in there. It's not filled with notes every second. You got it.
Tom Petty was particularly gifted at that kind of production, wasn't he? There's a lot of
acoustic space. It builds in heaviness when you don't put a lot there.
That's what makes me crazy when I hear some of this newer rock stuff. It's just that buzzsaw guitar, just the drone.
Yeah.
Like all the way, I don't even hear a chord anymore. It's just,
My own criticism, and we like what we like. But my own criticism of Humble Pie was always they're really probably great to see live, great musicians, but they almost had a sense of their music of look how clever we are.
Yeah.
A little bit, and this is just me. I always say, like, on Who You Like, What You Like. They just seemed like it was a little bit, okay, you don't have to do this much.
Yep.
I was listening to Lottie and the Charcoal Queen on the way over here this morning, and it's just really funny to hear, some out of the left field Humble Pie come in my mix in the car, but there was no space in that because it was all soul music, it was gospel, and it was just loaded with vocals and organ and everything else, and there was really no room for anything else.
Yeah, no space.
No, but then I mentioned Captain Beefheart, and I guess like Zoohorn and Rollo and them, they were asked about coming back and just doing like a Trout Mask the instrumental, and they were like, we don't want to learn this stuff again.
Already did it, right?
Been done.
Well, that's a good example, though. I remember Black Sheep was kind of heavily influenced by the free stuff.
And Steve Winwood, Traffic, a lot of that. I mean, and that was basically soul R&B, right? I mean, they listened to all the Motown artists here and didn't cop it, but wanted to create that kind of vibe and did it their own, with their talent, they did it the way they knew best.
Yep.
Steve Winwood like 15 when he played it.
I know, it's crazy. Like 17 or something when he did.
I'm a man, right? I'm a man. I was watching him do it going, who is
song on my
So, hey, on the way over here, though, I just happened to be listening to Breakfast with the Beatles, and it got me thinking about CMF and because it was what's his name there, Dave Kane, and it got me thinking about Uncle Raj and him and all the influences how they helped us out. And probably way more you than me, but...
No, both of us. I'm pretty sure at any point in time they would have helped anybody, any artist around
Raj,
here.
Last time I saw Raj was at the Ramones at U of R. When he talked about the last thing, I was a bit buzzed on Vodka and Orange, on Lemonade. But talking to Raj, he was really hyping Van Halen's 5150 album. He was telling me how much he liked it.
Wow. Yeah, he was a diverse guy.
He was cool. I remember he played... What was that band he played bass in? He was in a band.
Yeah, it was a punk band, right?
Yeah, they were great. I saw them at Glass Onion or somewhere.
Yeah.
But I remember he was the coolest guy because I remember I got to meet him a couple times. And, this is back when I was younger. I think I just went over to Layton Avenue, midnight or something. I rang the buzzer. Hey, Raj, it's Greg Andrews. Remember me? Yeah. Can I come up and hang out? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Just open the door and let you come out.
Yeah, the good old days. We used to do that there and over at SAY.
Yep. Oh, yeah, we used to go up there all the time.
SAY, wow.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, because
we'd go in there for the Midnight Rosary.
Yeah, right.
And then after the Midnight Rosary, okay, you can play anything you want.
I know.
You'll find, though, too, a lot of artists, what they
station.
Play and what their influences are, what they listen to is different. Everybody's the Beatles, pretty much. But you'll hear a lot of people. What do they listen to? It's totally different from what they play.
Oh yeah,
they're fans of different things.
Usually, yeah.
I do. I know.
And I listen to everything.
Me too. Anything from classical to country to, even some of the hip hop. I've been blessed to have kids that at least can dig out the good hip hop and R&B
early
artists.
rap for me, some of the early stuff.
Yeah, and some of it's really good. And creative for as much as everybody. Oh no, that stuff's crap now. And it's no, not all of it. Stuff you hear on the radio might be, but
there's a lot of good stuff. I like a lot of the lyrics. When it's not too violent.
Exactly.
There's a lot. There's a good message in a lot of it.
No, it is.
It's almost like the beats or something. It's like poetry put to music in a little ways.
Oh yeah.
But we like to crap on the generations now. It's kids today.
Yeah.
I remember we all walked. I close to climb Mount Everest to go to school. These kids get if it's 30 degrees, it's shut.
Yeah, right.
That thing. But how did Lips Turn Blue come about?
It was actually D Drive. It went on since 2004. I think we got the first record out. The first album was actually my solo album, and we named it D Drive. And then after that, when we did the second album with Joe Lana and Lou and all the guys in the band, we decided we didn't want to call it Don Mancuso's anything. We wanted a band name. We went to D Drive. We put out bunch of music over the years,
which I thought was a very cool name, by the way.
Yeah, I did like D Drive. Yeah, I liked it a lot too.
That name was gifted to us by a friend of mine that I had reconnected with in California. He had a record collection of 700 albums.
Wow.
This guy, and he was the most knowledgeable guy. If I ever had a question on anything, I could go there.
Yeah.
And he came up with the name. He said, "Are you recording on a computer?" I go, "Of course. We're broke."
Yeah, right.
We got it.
So it was the hard drive that you were named after?
Well, no, and then he said, that makes sense. He goes, "And you're still going by the name D, right, from when you were a kid, because there were so many Dons?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "It's got to be D Drive. Just don't put the dots in there. Just put GDRIV." I was like, genius.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Wow, that's awesome.
So we took that name on, and by the time the pandemic hit, we were recording songs. We did Pray for Tomorrow. We did a remake of that because of what was going on in the world and, all the sadness and isolation and stuff. And we did an acoustic version of it for the keyboard player was the CEO of Rochester Regional Health at the time.
Eric.
Yeah, so he wanted us to do it, and he gave it to them, and they put it out, and And we decided, if we're going to be shut up here like a bunch of lugs, we should write some more music together. Let's get some new stuff. So we started writing all from our individual areas of the earth and putting it together on Zoom and telephone calls and everything else. And we started shopping it with Bruce Pilato. Was shopping it around to different, indie labels and seeing if he could get us a deal. And he hooked up with this one company that was all hot on it in Germany called MIG, Made in Germany Music. And he gave it to them. They wanted to do it. They said, we will not put it out under the name D-Drive. You got to have a new name because there's a band in Tokyo or somewhere that has this gorgeous girl who shreds. She's incredibly talented.
I think I remember hearing about that.
And it's like they were around because we own the domain name, and they hit us up like right away. When they started getting big in investors. And we told them no, we didn't want to give it up at the time. So, but they got huge. I mean, they have like millions of followers online. People go and watch their videos just to see her legs and her shredding ability. And the band's really great. It's like a fusion metal rock thing.
You never got their fan mail?
No.
What are they called? D-Drive?
Yeah. If you go out now and you type in D-Drive, you'll find us, but you'll also find them. You got to check them out. They're really good. So we agreed, and we said okay. And I think it was Bruce came up with that name, and at the time it wasn't really like going over that big because we were losing our singer to cancer. And, I had people sending me scathing emails going, how could you do that? It's like, well, no, to me it's like lips turn blue when you're cold, too.
Right.
Yeah. I've been freezing cold and it's not just...
It's not like code blue, which is like,
right.
Which I know what that is.
But it was some, I think it was some popular name from a book, I think, that was popular.
It's a cool name, I think.
Yeah. I thought it was okay,
It's got the Criminal Minds thing.
It's almost got like, in a way, it's almost got a, it's like a gothy feel. Almost.
Yeah. No, and it was, and they put out the record because we named it something different. It's like, okay, we're good.
Speaking of Phil, real quick, I picked up a Cactus album, and he does vocals on one of the songs.
Yeah,
the album Tightrope.
Yeah, I think he probably even co-wrote it. I think that's like the thing he did with the drummer from Kiss. What was his name?
Eric Carr, the first of Peter Criss.
No, Peter Criss. He was on his solo.
Oh, really?
And he wrote a couple songs and he let him sing on them.
I think Anton Fig was like a drummer for them.
Because I know,
was he really?
Well, he drummed on I guess Peter. There were so many problems on a couple Unmasked.
Mm-hmm.
They had Anton Fig ghost drum because they had a contract. They had to have all the...
Bruce Pilato was involved in this particular CD.
Yeah, Bruce Pilato's been involved in a lot of things. He's actually the guy that hooked me up with Celtic Fire.
Wow.
He hooked me up with a couple other people that are big in the business because he has a lot of connections.
I saw it too. I saw you were on the news or something for this or some program.
Yeah, we did a morning show, I think. We did a little unplugged thing.
I love musicians have to do the morning shows. Always cracked me up in the old days. They would be coming in looking, I had one. I won't mention their name. I won't mention their name.
Can we do the 10 o'clock news?
I won't mention their names to protect the guilty. But one of my friends' band for Record Archive.
Oh, yeah.
They had the early show. They're all wearing sunglasses. Everybody's out.
Yeah, right.
It's killer.
One almost fell to the garbage can.
When we were out on tour with Lou's band for that decade or so, they would recruit him to come into the morning shows 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't believe he could actually sing at that hour.
No, I would get the one person. You could always tell my guests because my one friend who's been on, who's like, dude, can we do it at 3 in the afternoon? I go, what's the metal guy? You actually mentioned Cactus and those. There's just something random. Who's been interesting that you've met and worked with? Because I've seen you've worked with or met a lot of people. Pick anybody, just get random.
Eddie Money.
Really?
Yeah, Eddie Money was a classic, man. We were out on tour with Lou and I on his Jingle Bell Rock. He did a Jingle Bell Rock, and it was Eddie Money, Lou, and Mickey Thomas.
Wow, Mickey Thomas.
Yeah.
Talk about a voice.
Yeah, and talk about a work ethic, you know.
Yeah.
Eddie and Lou would be like, oh, no, we're not coming to rehearsal. And Mickey would walk in and go, that's okay, I'll sing all their parts. I'm bored, I need to do something musically. I'm like, you're my hero.
Did you see him
buddy.
when he was at the Lilac Fest a couple of years ago?
No. I tried to get a hold of him, and his manager thought I was some groupie, didn't know that I knew him.
And did he marry somebody from Rochester or something?
I don't know.
He had a connection because when he started his play, he did that Broadway, the musical on his life. It premiered at the Kodak Theater to start.
Wow.
He was
I know
around.
he was at Vision. He was at Vision Dodge for some reason because my girlfriend works there, and he was in the office.
I think he
flirting
met
with all the
his
girls.
last wife was like, I think he had a connection to Rochester. Maybe now this is
Could be.
maybe look it up, everybody. I'm not looking.
So can I tell you my Eddie Money story? I've probably told it before on here, but
It's a classic.
you gotta love this, so because I know what you're talking about. So when I was working at Chase, they gave us an afternoon to go to the ball game at Frontier Field. So we go, and we're all hanging out, and I went down to the concession area, and I see this big crowd of people, and I go further in, and there's this table, and Eddie Money's sitting at this table signing 8x10s. And I don't even know why he was there, but he was there, and in my little weird cleverness, I wore my Wheaties baseball guy shirt to this baseball game.
Yep.
Just to be. And he looked at me, and he says, come here, this shirt's awesome, come here. And he signed my shirt.
Awesome.
So I still have the shirt.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, he was a character. I was on his, he had like a conversion of kind of a tour bus thing with his room in the back, and then we had bunks in between. And traveling cross country, he used to break my chops because of my name. You got to change your name, dude.
Yeah.
Who was that? Don Mancuso, and he'd give me 19 names like through the whole month we were together.
Don Smith.
He was Mahoney.
Mahoney,
wasn't he?
Eddie Mahoney.
Yeah.
Mahoney it was.
And even that was too much for him. He couldn't,
Yeah.
He wanted it to be something that's just so simple and brainless. He goes, you're never going to make it in this business. I go, that's okay. I don't care.
Yeah, right.
As long as I can afford to stay in it and keep writing and recording and meeting cool people like you.
There you go.
It was actually really funny. The audience sort of gasped. I saw him play at the Auditorium Theater. Vixen opened up. And they're doing Take Me Home Tonight, right?
Yeah.
So, they have the Ronnie Spector part. Just, you wonder how they're going to do it, right? One of his bass player just goes up, goes, and mouths Be My Little Baby, and Ronnie Spector's voice comes out.
Yeah. His daughter sang that, a lot of that, when we were out with him. He had a daughter who was gorgeous that kept disappearing on the tour, and he'd have to send his people out there, go find her, get her back.
That's rock and roll.
That was a great tour.
I've got people.
I got to play with Tommy Gervin, who is like one of the greatest unknown guitar players on the planet. he's really good.
They're around. That's the thing. We all when you dig deep into music, there are all these people the masses have never heard of that are fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And even me, I've been on a big Skunk Baxter kick. Now, you mentioned him to a lot of people that don't know, but he's played on so much. Mm-hmm. And he's done, he used to work with the Department of Defense. But I bet if you mentioned Skunk Baxter to most people, who? And go, Steely Dan, Doobie Brothers, just to name a few.
Yeah, and then they'll go, oh, yes.
I think that whole side person thing is a really cool thing. I mean, people just go, well, why don't you just do your own band? Well, it's an honor to be asked to play alongside because they think you're good enough.
That's right.
You have something they like. So,
that's right.
I mean, I did that thing with Gail Lee Lewis, Jerry Lee's sister, and that was a blast. Like an hour of rehearsal.
Yeah, that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah,
a lot of
get to rehearse.
That was a long one for you, though.
Here's the gig. Show up at this time. Know this song.
No, I'll never get back.
Rob Halford, when he subbed for Ozzy for Black Sabbath, he said in his book he's listening to a cassette in his car on the way to the gig.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's amazing.
It's unlike ours, where it's what are we going to talk about today? What's our guest name? Okay, let's just roll.
Hey, well, you don't want to overthink it.
No, you don't. It comes out as forced or whatever or anything else. And I think that's part of the fun of playing, too, if, it's all rigid. It's why bother?
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Now, if you're going for perfection, you're in the wrong business.
I think you're definitely right about the whole, why aren't you doing this or living in Los Angeles or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I was out there, and I just went, really? I don't think I want to be
for
here.
A while. Yeah,
you know, I don't.
not...
You start to see what's going on, and you're like, I'd rather go back and be the bigger fish in the little pond and whatever, you know.
And I think everybody who's saying, I'm going to go to L.A., I'm going to hit it big, I'm going to go to Nashville. Everybody in every one of the 50 states, plus probably Europe, is saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
And it's always like the story is like I know like friends like. There's actually a Happy Days episode of All Things where, like, one of them's playing guitar. He's, like, really great. It's like, I'm going to be great. He goes to an audition, and the guy blows it away who's playing. And you realize there's always somebody more talented, better. Yeah. You find your own niche, get comfortable in it.
That's right.
And I'd rather be the unknown guy, like, sitting in the back playing than, like, the guy getting mobbed or...
Yeah, me too.
Well, like anything else, though, you got to be...
here to work with, right? But, you know, Mike, for God's sake, you know, probably one of the best bass players I've ever seen play.
Yeah.
You know, and you get to work with really talented people in this town.
Oh, yeah.
And I overheard you and Mike one time coming out of Iron Smoke talking about how cool it is to be in Rochester because there's just so much going on here and people really don't take advantage of it. They don't realize that, right?
No, they should go to other cities.
No, you think Atlanta.
Yeah,
Atlanta, great city. Yeah. Atlanta, great city. One of my friends who lives down there is down there going, Rob, you don't believe it. Like, remember when we were here, I used to say before COVID, if you wanted to go out 5 days a week, if you had the energy, you could pick, what do you like, what band, what kind, you want different music? You can find it. I can't find any of this here.
That's right.
And you're not going to find too many places that have the camaraderie that we have here.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, everybody's trying to get the gigs and get in with people, but, you know, at the same time, hey, could you fill in for me tonight, or can you can actually call somebody up and say, hey, could you help me out? And most of the time they'll help you out.
Yep.
It's like generations of music here. It seems like there's a great lineage. We have you. Like on my shirt, I have I have different generations of music, and I always say the kids are all right. Like my buttons, it's like there. I was like the only thing is like I was with Michaela and Sam from Maybert at the Bug Jar talking about doing the deck in my day, and I'm realizing, oh my God, I've been talking about shows before they were born.
Yeah.
It's not hard, though. These people are born in the 80s now. I mean,
well, hey, remember what you're on here for birthdays.
90s. I'm working with kids that were born in the 96. I'm going, really?
Yeah.
No. I know. Well, I did doors at bars, and it got to the point where, no, you're not 21. Come on. Yeah. I felt like just going, no, you can't come in. Yeah. But I had the one... I'm in line at Wegmans. There's these kids in front of me. This is the culture shock thing. There's this guy on. He had this weird voice and this little bit of makeup to him. I'm just looking, going, Bob Dylan? They look at me and they go, you guessed it. Who's Bob Dylan? And I've heard people say, well, you know, the Kinks they covered the Van Halen song. Then you just go, all of a sudden you pull your pants up, just go, get off my lawn. But I always say the kids are all right here. You look at the future of music in Rochester, and I think they appreciate everybody who came before them. Like like Iggy filled in at that gig, and he's doing all this bunch of stuff. And I remember seeing him play with Roy. I think he went to Naz with Roy.
Yes. Yep.
And I remember seeing him play like over 5 years ago.
Yep.
So the kids, and a lot of kids like, they really, like, you listen to their influence. I know Danger Bird, I told Alex, it was like the best song Neil Young never wrote. That's a Neil Young song. Yeah. And, and they're all into this stuff. They weren't, they know this stuff. It's not like, well, I know 5 years ago, or like his favorite Billie Eilish, you have to understand we rag about Billie Eilish all the time. That's our in-joke about Greg. It's like, I'm always like, you play for Billie Eilish?
Stay in your bedroom, be famous.
In your bedroom. That's right. It's all done with machines.
No, but you're playing a lot of gigs now. That's what all the future looks for. You're just going to keep playing, enjoying yourself?
As long as I can. I mean, that's the life of a musician, until you can't do it or people don't want you to play with them again. I mean, when it gets to that point, I'll say, okay, I'm done.
Yeah,
right. Just retreat to the studio.
That's right. Yeah. Go to the studio.
I always say when I don't want to load the car anymore, that's it.
Yeah.
You got more to load than some people than, like, I always love, like, and I won't mention names because I love them, but, like, some of my friends are lead singers. I'll see the band drag it in stuff. Yeah. Then the lead singer shows up 10 minutes before the show.
Yeah. I got my mic stand.
I got my phone clip.
Yeah, it's interesting now. That's actually a thing interesting now. I've never seen before, though, but I've seen so much with the clips up here with the lyrics.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, well, when you get into 5, 6 different type of projects, you need some kind of reference. I mean, memory is good.
Who can afford the wedges with the prompters on them?
I know.
Well, yeah, and you know, gosh, I mean, I just in the last week I heard a version of a Who song. I'm forgetting which song it was now. Peter Townsend got the verse completely screwed up. The verse, "The Long Live Rock," completely screwed up the lyrics. And it's you know,
Stones. I've been on a huge Stones kick, so I've been listening to a lot of the live albums. Mick will never sing "Tumbling Dice" right. For the lyrics, he'll always goof the lyrics up on "Tumbling Dice."
Yeah,
it's part of the fun, though. It's part of the fun, though. Like if you want to hear the right song, just go listen to it on the album.
That's right. Or go hear the tribute band that's trying to be them and can't.
It's cool, but Don. Go on, Greg.
I mean, even Sinatra. I mean, doobie doobie doo. He forgot the lyrics. Totally.
Yeah.
Is that where that
That's what Curly was doing with Stooges.
Curly.
Yeah, he would. When he did on the floor, he would go on the floor because he couldn't remember the lines, so we'd do the spin on the floor and stuff like that.
Really?
The Curly
Shuffle?
Yeah. Or like Ace Frehley and Kiss Meets the Phantom would just laugh because he was drunk and couldn't remember the lines. And they had to redub Peter Chris's lines because he was so drunk they couldn't understand them.
Oh, my God.
That's the 70s were like the decadence. It's like anybody who lived through the 70s more than that was like the decadence of rock and roll.
I hated the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
To me, it's a nightmare.
Fashions were.
Yeah.
You know, the coaching was on TV, though, so that was cool. But, Don, thanks a heck of a lot for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This has been lots of fun. This is, you know...
You get to be with my buddy Greg and all you guys.
Yeah.
This is nice.
Reuniting.
I like
it. It feels so good.
That's right. Casual, but now, I know you're playing Iron Smoke on the 25th. And I saw you playing Hilton or somewhere, too.
Oh, God, I'm playing Hilton a lot. A.J. Hilton is actually, his name's Andrew J. He's from Hilton. That's why he named himself that. So his whole following is like right out of there. They follow us pretty much everywhere we go. But yeah, the 25th is going to be. We're actually getting Dave Drum back.
Oh, right.
He had his rotator cuff surgery done. And by some miracle, the doctor is going to actually told him, yeah, go ahead and play He plays a cajon with this thing because it's an acoustic thing.
Yeah.
It's just, and he can play keeping his elbows. Yeah, he just can't extend. So he's got a snare, he's got the cajon for the kick, and he's got a hi-hat. And he can play. I'm going, you're kidding me, and you won't hurt yourself? It's like, great.
That's awesome.
I want to go see that because I love watching Dave drum.
He's a great player.
He's great. And I've been missing him because, I'm not a great vocalist. I mean, I just force myself to start singing so that I could keep working myself somehow and be more valuable. You
don't have to be, though. I always made this joke about American Idol. Can you imagine Tom Waits, Ray Davies, anybody going on American Idol? Bob Dylan. It's got to get the feeling.
And that's what made me. Someone told me, you'll never be as bad as Bob Dylan. I go, he's great.
Yeah.
I mean, at what he does. Well, and they were like, well, you could probably be too if you did it regularly. And I'm like, no, I don't think I'll ever be great. But if I can get to be tolerable and no one will throw things at me, I'll do it. So
you'll never be Yima Suman, but
yeah.
But that's like a problematic naming yourself after your era. Imagine like if you're from Phelps, you're the Great Sauerkraut Festival band.
That's right.
You better be polka.
I actually played one of those once.
Yeah, and we'll be playing with the last show with Mike Mullane and Roy Stein. We're going to play the last show with them in Buffalo at the Stage on March 3rd.
Cool.
That club is amazing.
Why is it the last show of what?
It's basically they've been subbing for because Dave was out. He really can't extend his arm, so he can't play Led Zeppelin.
Oh, right.
Dave Drum. So Roy filled in for him, and Mike volunteered to just step in because our bass player Darren Pilato got a new job for the government, being a lawyer or something. Yeah. So he's totally. He's totally
Roy's been another one. He's been at it since he's never stopped.
Yep. No. I remember I met him on an airplane flying to New York one day. He said, "Aren't you Lou Graham's guitar player?" yeah, who are you? We got to be good friends. We ended up in 3 or 4 bands together, just like Greg and I.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just remember, like I said, my brother was in New Mass. So I remember, like, being underage going to...
Oh, yeah.
They did those festival tent shows, too. Like, the band Listen played with them and a couple others. I
remember that.
Yeah. And I just remember, like, getting even going on. Nobody cared as much those days. It was fun, but...
Festival tent with Joe Bonamassa when he was 8.
Okay, that would be a little much. I remember they caught, like, there's, like, this one convenience store by me. They sent, like, the cops sent, like, some 12-year-old in to buy cigarettes. It's like, come on, you're asking for it.
That's funny.
He's 8. Oh, he looks young for his age. Don't worry.
I'm trying to remember how old he was, though, because he was, like, 12
I remember. He was,
when
like...
he opened for B.B. King at the festival tent. He was, like, 12. And he was shredding. He was amazing.
That's just amazing,
this
though.
Stuff is awesome.
But yeah, check. You have a website, because I know I actually looked at it to, like, try to familiarize myself that I forgot everything because I'm old.
No, DonMancuso.com. You can get me if you go to Reverb Nation and you sign up for my email list, which I don't badger people, but you can get like hundreds of songs that I played on, from blues, Christian rock, down to, playing songs with my son in the studio, and hear some stuff that's really cool, and see some videos and things.
I love the diversity of it all, too. There's no end to music. You can do whatever you want.
That's right.
So what's in the future? Keep playing, right?
What's in the future? Yeah.
Check him out. He's around. But we're going.
I want to do another solo album. I mean, when I do a solo album, it's not just me. I have people like you and a lot of other talent that comes in. But I'd like to do that. And Lips Turn Blue is trying to regroup. We found a singer out in L.A. who used to be in the band Red with me, Michael O'Mara. And he seems to be able to do the job, and we're just trying to get we even have a few ideas of Phil's left that we're going to try to remake and put together another album. We've been dropped by the record company.
Oh, so now you got your freedom.
Yeah, we only sold a few thousand albums. They expected way better performance, of course.
Especially in these days, that's really good.
And no one's really selling anything when you look at it realistically, except for streams.
Yeah.
And albums. If you put out a physical, like, vinyl album, people will buy it. CDs, they're basically just calling
vinyl's roaring back. It's weird.
That's been a topic because there's been this thing going around about all, like, the small money you make from the streaming services, and I've had, like, musicians that say,
they're ridiculous.
The CDs don't. But see, I like physical stuff. I'm like a Luddite, but I'll get a CD or an album or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to do vinyl if we do another one. I'm not. I mean, we'll get CDs made just so we have something to throw around.
But you have blue vinyl.
That would be good.
You know what you should do? You should have just a Rochester edition if you could do it. Where when it gets cold, the album turns blue.
Oh yeah,
there you go.
You could probably do it. You could probably do it these days. There's so much technology. But what if now Greg wants to hear something? Let's turn blue. It's up to you if you want to.
I just wanted to hear the second song, "Build My Castle" or whatever.
Build My Castle.
But there's another thing.
And then
solo thing, right?
You're being very nice, letting the drummer pick your song. But what do you
No, it's a good song. It's actually from one of the first.
Just one more interruption. One last question, because I always forget one thing: is how did doing He Bulldog come about? Because that was like the big push when they were saying you were doing this. Is like it was really good.
Yeah, on my second solo album, which we called Don Mancuso's D Drive, we were looking for a Beatles song, and of course everybody's suggesting all their famous songs that were on the radio. Right. Oh, do that, you'll become rich and famous. It's like me and Phil looked at each other and said, "How about Hey Bulldog? I like that song." It's like, that's a good idea.
It's a good rockin' song.
It wasn't actually even on an album. It was on the B-side of one of the
Yellow Submarine, too. I think the reissue of Yellow Submarine, the movie.
They put it on there.
And what I like, too, is I've had this, it's not a criticism, but, like, I've had friends, I used to count, I have, like, at the moment, 8 friends who do a cover of Jolene. Johnny Cash has done more than 3 songs like Folsom Prison. Pull something out of the hat you haven't heard.
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah.
But now... So,
that's a good thing.
Now,
this one,
let's play on
on this one, this is pretty much all instrumental, and Green Bay Reggae is the one you should play on this.
Okay.
And check it out. It's got some cool stuff. It's the drummer from Pink, Mark Shulman.
Oh yeah, he's great.
It's him and I actually recorded most of the stuff. I did all the guitar and bass tracks, and he did the drums, and it was like...
He's freaking phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, he's a monster. I couldn't believe he actually wanted to do it, because Lou and I were riding on a tour bus in Europe on Rock Meets Classic, where we played with the orchestra, and I'm watching this video of Pink, like, coming out of the ceiling in the Australia thing, doing gymnastics and singing, and this guy comes out from behind the drums and starts playing cello while she's doing it. I go, holy God, that guy's an amazing drummer, and he plays cello. Lou looks at me, he goes, oh, that's Mark Shulman. He stepped in for Dennis Elliott on the Foreigner Ford tour when he quit. I went, you know him? He goes, yeah. Do you mind if I use your name to, like, see if he'll do my solos? And I did it, and he said, at first he said, well, send it to me, I'm kind of busy. And then when he heard Dee Dee Bop or one of the other ones, he said, oh, this is not pop.
Yeah, right.
He goes, I'll do it, and I'll give you the good old boy deal instead of my normal 500 or 1,000 a track.
Well, thanks a lot, Don. This has been awesome.
Thank you, guys.
The thing is, don't ever name drop the Carnival. It'll be like Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean. You probably get slapped. So thanks a lot. We'll listen to the songs. They're going to be great.
He'll even be on our show.
Thanks, man.